Welcome. Great to have you with us on the show today. Jason Lord, will not be mentally here today because Metallica is at MetLife Stadium tonight. Now, this is a no repeat.
It's no repeat, yeah, Friday, Sunday. Yep.
Now, are you going back Sunday?
I am not. I'm actually let somebody else have those tickets. So
this must be hard for you to give up a Metallica.
It is tough, but the other reality of it, do I really want to drive back to New Jersey on a 48-hour span? I've seen them long enough to probably have seen all the songs that they are playing.
Now,
I
helped you, didn't I? I helped you in terms of getting there.
You did.
So, kind of gave you a couple routes to take that will get you out of traffic.
Yes.
All right. So, obviously, the big story is realignment. You have every school in the country quietly now going about their business in training camp. Penn State had its second yesterday. I think Penn State's off today, and then they've got a full one coming up tomorrow.
Media Day Sunday, yep.
And then Media Day Sunday. So let's talk about realignment for a moment. The pendulum has been swinging back and forth. There have been wild swings of it over the past 72 hours. Arizona's Board of Regents did meet last night, and there evidently is an offer on the table from the Big 12. Okay. Now, is that unexpected? No. Especially after the Colorado move, it's not unexpected. Everyone's heard about the dalliance between the Big Ten and Oregon and Washington. I'm going to get into that in a moment. The Pac-12 has had a conference call this morning. And the momentum appeared to be going into the conference call that they could keep the thing alive. Pete Thamel, along with Heather Dinich, and of course Heather worked here at the Center Daily Times at one point in her career.
Pottsville resident?
Yep. Have both, Pete's the one that tweeted that he and Heather have both heard the Pac-12 is unlikely, quote, to land the plane this morning and get a media rights deal signed on this call today. Multiple variables at play here, including 11th hour Big Ten push for Oregon and Washington. Everything remains fluid. So let's lay out the Oregon-Washington part of it for everybody and about half shares and things like that. All right. A half share of the Big Ten contract, especially on the back end of the deal, right? Especially on the back end of the deal, is going to give them more money than the Pac-12 can give them, and is going to give them more money than the Big 12 can give them as a half share. Right? That's, again, more to the back end. Again, the Big Ten TV contract is backloaded. But it's not a question of vetting Oregon and Washington. Tony Petitti's job, in my opinion, would be to find a TV package that gets him $480 million, so about $500 million, over 6 years. And remember, the Big Ten TV contract starts this year. Mm-hmm. Next year, there'll be 6 years remaining. All right? And that's a big part of why this is backloaded, too. USC and UCLA don't come in until next year. All right? So you're saying, well, what do you mean they need $500 million? Well, even at a half share, that means you're now taking away from the existing 16 members to make this happen, unless you come up with a TV package that funds it. Right? That's why you would need, pick an Amazon, an Apple, whomever. Now, I find it difficult to believe, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that you go to your TV partners and say, hey, look, can we come up between the three of you? And remember, too, what would also happen is BTN would play a role in terms of cable subscriptions in the states of Oregon and Washington. It would now go up, right? Just like it did in Maryland and New Jersey. And so that would be part of the funding, but you would then need to fund the rest of it so that you're not taking away from any of the existing numbers that already are there for athletic directors to deal with. They've been presented TV numbers on a year-by-year basis, okay? They're building their budgets based on those TV numbers. Now you're going to tell me I'm going to get less? No, that's not a good deal for the conference, especially when you look at the landscape and you might be able to get them in the next TV deal as full partners 6 years from now. Right?
Yeah.
Right? Now, the ease would be, can you get them in now and not have to even think about that? Okay. So that's part of the thought process. So you would get more money from the state of Oregon and more money from the state of Washington on their cable TV packages with BTN, because they'd be on there, they'd be getting dollars from that. And even though there's the heavy, lean towards streaming, you're still talking about 50 to 60 million subscribers had BTN. That's not a tiny number. All right? It's not a small number. It's still a good enough number to make it work. So that's one. Which means that whatever you think you can bring in from BTN in those two states, you then need to come up with the rest of it in another TV package, whether it is getting more money from your existing partners or coming up with another late night 10:30 package that you can. And again, you may be able to go to Fox and say, hey, Fox Sports 1, how about a 10:30 game on Friday night, 10:30 game on Saturday night, something like that. And they may say yes. I don't know. Or you may have to go to Amazon. They may say yes. But you have to ask the question, if I'm dipping my toe into streaming, you've already done that with Peacock. What does NBC have to say about, hey, wait a minute, guys?
That's what I'm thinking.
Guys, we have a streaming deal. You're going to bring in another streamer? And again, I don't know if that streaming deal is exclusivity, because obviously Paramount Plus is going to carry CBS, the CBS games. But at least it's a question that needs to be asked. It has not been the vetting of Oregon and Washington. They've already been vetted. It is the vetting of the TV deal you can get to offset their entry into the conference to cover the next 6 years. There'll be no exit fee. There would be no grant of rights violation, because they would naturally let their PAC whatever, PAC-9, just expire. Just like USC and UCLA will let it expire, and just like Colorado's going to let it expire. All right. So now let's get to the half share part. You're still going to get more money in a half share as it builds over time than you would if you go to the Big 12 or if you stay in the Pac-12, right? This would be on par with what happened with Nebraska, what happened with Maryland, and what happened with Rutgers. They were integrated on shares and percentages for 7 years, I believe. Or I think it's in the 7th year. I think in the 7th year you finally get to a full share. Now, that would play out here. 6 years, integrated, finally, But you would not get to a full share in the contract. Okay? That's not what would happen here. Unless you have it covered. The key is to get it covered. Right? Because you already have a TV contract in place with your current 16 members that tells them what dollars they expect to get. So there's the issue I think that Tony Petitti is more worked on to see, can they get more money from an existing TV partner or partners, or do they need another one to cover this? Because you already have agreements in place where your athletic directors are like, now, USC is interesting. I mean, I know enough people there, and I was in Los Angeles at the beginning of the year, so you kind of have some casual conversations. USC is not enamored with having Washington and Oregon in. They like the idea of being UCLA's fine, of being the only show out there. I will say this, the reputations, and again, these are people I don't know, so I'll just give you the reputations. The reputation of the UCLA chancellor is that he is pretty much a go-with-the-flow kind of guy. All right? Carol Fultz, the president at USC, would not be described as a shrinking violet. She tells you exactly what she thinks, and she has opinions, right? And, so I think the Big Ten has taken a cautious viewpoint. They've tried to be patient, all right? And in a wild landscape, patience is a virtue. Brett Yormark felt with his brand at the Big 12, he could not afford patience. And again, I'll point it out again, as you know. The Big 12 gets big-time points for surviving. The Big 12 gets big-time points for getting a TV deal that gets them $31.7 million per school. Okay? The Big 12 is not better than it was 12 years ago. Okay? You cannot tell me that you lose Texas, Texas A&M, Nebraska, Missouri, okay? Yeah, in Oklahoma, and you're going to tell me you're better? You lost Colorado too, but you're going to regain them?
Arizona, yeah.
Okay? You're going to tell me you're better? In what way? In what way are you better? Again, big time points. I give you a grade of A for surviving. I give you a grade of A for coming up with a TV deal to move you forward. Because, let's be honest about it. What are you? Okay? Because I'm going to get to what they are in a moment. Right? But you get a grade of C- for brand value. Because all the big brands that you had left. So your brand value is C-, which means that what ESPN and Fox have done, you need inventory, okay? In a lot of ways, they'll have some good games along the way, and they'll have some marquee games along the way, but for the most part, they are filler. Welcome to noon on ESPN. Mm-hmm. You're filler. Welcome to ESPN Plus. You're filler. Welcome to ESPN2 and ESPNU. You're filler. Okay? So for all the talk about how awesome the Big 12 has done, again, A for survival, A for the TV contract, C- for brand value. Is there anybody in the Big 12 that the Big 10 would want? Is there anybody in the Big 12 the SEC would want? The SEC's already taken them all. They took Missouri.
Yeah, Missouri, A&M, and Oklahoma.
They took Missouri, Oklahoma, A&M, and Texas.
Yeah,
all right, they pretty much have raided you.
No.
Okay? And then the Big 10 took Nebraska. Okay. It's like, I'm sorry. All right? I give you credit. Everybody thought you'd be extinct right now. You're not extinct. All right. There was wow, what a great job. Great job of what? Okay. Yeah. Survival is a great job. There's no question. No question. Yeah. Great job. Okay. And all right. Brad McMurphy tweets. And again, he, like Pete Thamel, plugged in. Pac-12 unable to get grant of rights signed this morning. Nothing has changed as far as Oregon and Washington joining Big Ten. Ducks and Huskies still expected to be Big Ten bound when finances are worked out, sources said. And then Adam, I talked to Adam yesterday. I talked to Adam for about 15 minutes yesterday. So Big Ten presidents are meeting now, according to a source. Anybody know where Neely is? No.
Yeah.
We'll be interested to see if alignment can be reached on Oregon and Washington, some work to do. And there is work to do. Yeah. And again, the work to... Okay. So now, say it happens. Well, all those schedules and opponents that were put out, what, 3-4 weeks ago? A month ago? It's moot. Because they would be joining right away.
Yeah.
They would be joining.
2024, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to.
Because what are they supposed to be, independents for a year?
Yeah.
No. They're not going to do that.
Not going to do that. No.
So again, the numbers are backloaded. So when everybody's talking about they're going to get $40 million, well, they're not going to get $40 million right away. It's like there's a gradual. It's like it's steps. The Big Ten TV contract is steps, but you need to work out. Well, need to. It would be preferable to work out a TV deal that covers their entry into the conference. It's not essentially what you would get would be this, Jason. Instead of getting 1/16 a share, you'd be getting 1/17.
Yep.
Because if Oregon and Washington are allegedly half, okay,
yep.
It equals 1. Yep. You'd be getting 1/17. Well, now you're asking everybody from Rutgers is like, I can't afford 1/17. I need 1/16. Because Rutgers is still paying back, what they've borrowed from the Big Ten. That's why, they're free and clear on full shares in 2027 or something like that, somewhere in that neighborhood, because they're paying back money that they borrowed against it from the conference. Maryland, I think. Maryland is also kind of in the same boat, but they're in better shape than Rutgers is. But they had to borrow against it. Part of it was the exit fee, which was $50 million from the ACC, because they got out before this latest grant of rights was signed in 2016.
2016,
yeah. So that's the key to it. Personal preference, do I want the Big Ten to stay at 16? Yes. Why? Because I just think it's a really good number to work with. I think you already have the right schools. Yep. And I think from an organizational point of view, it still has a feel for a conference.
Yep.
Now adding 2 to get to 18. Are Washington and Oregon good brands? Yes. Mm-hmm. Is it a great part of the country? Yes. Believe me, everybody talks about how far it is to travel to Los Angeles. Try going to Seattle. Seattle's further. Seattle is further.
And colder.
Again, you're so negative. Right?
And rainy.
Yeah.
And a lot of money to park. There's a lot of bad things.
See, again, obviously we've been to a Metallica concert.
No, the MLB All-Star game, and I think it was Taylor Swift a couple weeks ago, $120 to park. I had to hear about it.
Well, yeah, but again, T-Mobile and is it CenturyLink?
Yeah.
Okay, which are side by side.
Yeah.
That's not where the University of Washington is.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how much it is to park your boat.
No, or my yacht or any of that stuff.
I don't know how much it is to park your boat. And, of course, Oregon's in Eugene, which means you'd have to go to Portland and then get there.
And then get there. That's fine.
Which is fine.
They love me in Portland, allegedly.
But this is more than just about football, basketball.
Absolutely.
Again, this is all part of how do you integrate them to play volleyball? How do you integrate them to play soccer? How do you integrate them for track and field?
Softball.
Softball, baseball, everything. All right, it's about the whole shebang here. It would reinforce the Big Ten being coast to coast. Now, if they, the preference has always been Notre Dame coming into this thing, but if you give me a preference between Oregon, Washington, and Florida State, Clemson. Well, Oregon and Washington, number one, are both. Here, let's go to actually something that is not unimportant to the presidents. Doesn't mean it's an absolute, but it's not unimportant. Oregon and Washington are both AAU schools. Florida State and
Florida
Clemson.
State's not,
And Clemson is not.
Clemson isn't either, yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So that's part of, that does play a role in this. Does it make it easier for travel for USC and UCLA? Not as much as you think. That's a long trip from Los Angeles to Eugene into Seattle. And for schools in the Big Ten, right? If you're Maryland, Rutgers, and Penn State, even Ohio State, Seattle is in the contiguous 48. That's the furthest you can go. Right?
Yep.
I mean, look at the mileage from just State College to Los Angeles, State College to Seattle.
Yeah, it's not a straight shoot.
Right? Right. I mean, it's because it's up in the corner, right? It's further. So, and again, you have no schedule yet on dates for the Big Ten.
No.
They already had worked out essentially how they wanted to go about it, where if you notice, it seems like of the, quote, Big Four, Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, USC, you play 2 out of 3 on a rotating basis. Okay? All right? Because the TV networks need that, want that, and you had that part worked out. Now you'd have to now work out this part, and you have less time to do it.
Yeah.
Because remember, Washington, here we go, USC and UCLA, okay, it was announced 13 plus months ago.
Yeah, 13, this one will be less than a year.
So 13 months. So they've been working on it for the past year in one form or another and still have a little more time to do it. This, yeah, you may have a model in place, but your model in place is still for 16. Hey?
Yeah, and you've not executed that model in any way yet. That's where I think I'm a little bit against this for that reason. I think you got to me, see how something works first before you expand on it. That's kind of the way I look on the outside looking in, but I'm not writing the checks or cashing the checks. So I have no say whatsoever in this. But I think, to me, USC and UCLA come in next year. How are you going to integrate them into the conference? You have ideas on how you're going to do it, but it's not happened yet. So I think that's where let's see how it works with the two of them first, in my opinion.
Right,
that's probably not going to be the way it's going, but to me, I think that is probably the approach I would take on the outside looking in.
Because you may go through and find out you need tweaks.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? Or you may go through and say, you know what, this worked out pretty well.
Perfectly. Yeah, right? Absolutely.
Or you may go through and say, we're going to have to tweak the model a little bit here.
You still leave that door open. I think if you're getting to 18, at some point you're going to want to get to 20. So I think you leave the door open for Notre Dame, absolutely. But
and I don't want to play any game with Cal and Stanford.
No. I'm
sorry.
No.
And again, there's that adorable sentiment.
Yeah.
I always find it so adorable when I hear somebody say, and they're really great at volleyball. And I'm like going,
no.
Okay, the TV networks are sitting there saying, Stanford sits down at the table and they say, hey, we're really good at this, this, and this. And they look at it and go, that's nice.
That's great.
Terrific. How are you at football? What are your TV ratings for football? We've got the numbers here. They're not great.
No, and especially for Cal. That's
Cal.
That's your essentially part rival if you're Stanford. I think is probably Cal. So that also you eliminate that if you even entertain the thought of one of them. And the other part of it, academics are extremely important. Don't let me say they're not. They sure as heck are. Most important thing in terms of college. But same thing with that. Stanford says to the TV network, look at our Learfield Directors Cup rankings, consistently high. Great.
That's nice.
That's nice. What's it doing revenue-wise? What's it doing moving the needle? Nothing.
Right.
So that's where, you can't, like, you made a good point the other day. If Notre Dame says I want Stanford, at this point now, that would be perfect because you're getting 20.
Well, if that's
that's the only way.
Because Notre Dame would be powerful enough to carry Stanford.
To carry it.
Okay.
Carry the loss of money you'd get from Stanford.
That's fine. Well, you're not going to lose money.
You're not going to lose money, but you're not going to make the money you're making.
Notre Dame will make the entire package.
Notre Dame's going to get the package. It's going to
just like
offset it.
Penn State enhanced it, made it better for everybody. Okay. USC and UCLA enhanced it, made it better. Nebraska at least got them the Big Ten championship game, so everybody got more money.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I know with Maryland and Rutgers, it was all about the TV sets. I've got that.
Sure.
That's why I brought up earlier the offset of having Oregon and Washington, and would start with the cable carriage of BTN because the rate, and I don't know how many TV sets in Oregon and Washington at BTN, but the number would go up.
It's gonna go up no matter what.
Because now they would quote be in the footprint. Okay.
You also
but you also have to come up to me with another TV package. Maybe it's 10:30 Friday, maybe it's 10:30 Saturday. Yep. You have to figure out a way to offset the rest of it.
Yeah.
Because
I think
right now, your allegiance is to the 16 presidents and chancellors in that room that are allegedly meeting now.
Yeah.
Okay? That's where your allegiance is, to them. Your allegiance is not to the two new people. Okay? Okay? They've already been given a TV contract. Right? They've already signed a TV contract with Fox, CBS, NBC. It's a terrific contract. You now have athletic directors that have been sitting down, pouring through the numbers, doing their budgets year in and year out to at least get some preliminary, okay, what's my 5-year, and it's based on these numbers. What does my 5-year outlook look like? Mm-hmm. It's based on these numbers. Well, what, you go through this today, and because you're going to add 2 more schools, I've got to change my numbers? You've got to be able to offset.
You got to be able to offset it.
You have to be able to offset them coming into the conference, whether it is getting an existing partner to say, okay, you know what, we can come up with another $80 million more per year.
Yeah.
Okay. Or, that's an average. Or look at somebody else and say, hey, look, we'll go with another package like the 10:30 Friday, 10:30 on Saturday, and can we get $80 million a year from you?
And I think that's a good possibility that happens. I think there's 2 things that can happen. I think one is that 10:30 slot. I think you have the opportunity to open it up because you're going to take not the burden, but you're going to take the constant USC, UCLA in that spot away. The other thing you're liable to do now if you bring them in, that November night game suddenly gets a little bit easier because it's only 4:30 in Oregon. It's only 4:30 in Seattle. Right. Suddenly, those November night games, you have more flexibility that you don't necessarily have to put Penn State, Ohio State, or Michigan in those slots anymore and draw ratings. I think you can put not only USC and UCLA, but you also now put Oregon and Washington into these spots too. Suddenly, it gets a little easier, I think, to operate those November night games because you hear about it now this year as we know it, with Ohio State and Penn State having to deal with it. They made the sacrifice this year, not going to do it every year.
Nor should they.
Nor should they. No, and now I think this is where
what makes it easy,
can open it up.
What it makes it easier for Penn State is the game's indoors. Okay.
Yeah, that too.
And it's also fall break.
Yes.
So no classes that week. So in this particular year, you can do it. But if I'm a network, whether it's an existing partner or a new partner brought in, and you're talking to me about Oregon and Washington, and say you're talking about getting a 10:30 time slot Eastern time, right, 9:30 Central. Right. Here's my question. All right, when you do your draft, how many times am I going to get Indiana, Maryland, Rutgers, and Northwestern on that 10:30 time slot? Okay, no offense, it's a legitimate question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no offense, and the answer is going to be more often.
Okay, no offense at all to the people I just talked about.
No,
none meant.
No, and the answer is going to be more often.
But I'm going
there's
by
no question.
The average TV viewer per game.
Yeah.
Okay, you take out games with Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State. What is the average TV viewership of an Indiana football game? The average, Rutgers is last.
Yeah.
I've seen the numbers. Like it's less than 1 million.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that's in there.
And that's with Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State. It's still less than 1 million.
Right.
What does that tell you? That with Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State on their schedule every year, their average TV viewership over 12 games is less than 1 million. Mm-hmm. It's like 650,000.
Yeah.
What does that tell you? You've already got the big brands coming in, beefing up those 3 games beyond the words. The other 9, you're going nowhere, right? So Rutgers, Maryland, Indiana, Northwestern, right? I don't know. I don't know if you can throw Minnesota in there. Probably not.
Purdue,
possibly, especially with Jeff Brom gone. We'll see what they're going to be like, right? But that's the question I'm asking: is if I'm sitting down as a TV entity, saying, okay, how many times over the 6 years am I going to end up with that matchup being my game?
Yeah, I would say very, very, very high chance.
Right.
I think you can occasionally throw the Wisconsins in there, but you can't do it like you're throwing those other schools in there.
I would think, think that USC and UCLA would be a part of playing.
Oh, there's no question.
Up there.
There's no doubt.
That'd be fine. That's if they do this.
Mm-hmm.
But again,
I think there's a good chance they do.
Right, sure. Yeah. I mean, it only makes sense. Nebraska and so forth. But again, to me, it's about Tony Petitti's job. And this is his area of expertise. I personally do not know the man, right? I've heard a lot of really good things about him, but I've never met him. So I can't get a gauge on him personally. At some point, I'll meet him. They all want to come over and meet Jack, so I'm just kind of like there.
There you go.
Okay. But everybody I know, it's not like I don't know people that know him. And everybody I've talked to about him, sharp, understands the media landscape, totally gets it. Okay. His job when the story came out 2-3 days ago about they're vetting Oregon and Washington, they've already been vetted. Okay, nothing has changed in a year. All right. The vetting part was about, or the exploratory part was about finding a media outlet or outlets that can fund their entry into the conference. How do you make the finances work? It's not that simple.
No.
It's not like you are now sitting down. When USC and UCLA came in, what made it easier was that the Big Ten contract was up. And you were in the process already of negotiating a new TV contract. And USC and UCLA, and Mike Bone at the time, and Martin Jarmond, who was still there at UCLA, understood that the Big Ten TV contract was up. And if they wanted to make their move, they needed to make it sooner rather than later. And I think it was March of last year that Mike Bone got a hold of the executives at Fox and said, hey, is this possible? And then that changed the dynamics where now you're negotiating, okay, hey, they want to come in. Now you start negotiating with the idea you have the Los Angeles market, the brand of USC in particular, and UCLA is a good brand, but USC is a powerful brand. Mm-hmm. Okay? And now you're going to negotiate at the table for that. So when the deal came out, and we mentioned how it's a backloaded deal. The deal came out where the first year CBS only has half the games because they still have the SEC.
Right.
There's no USC and UCLA first year, so the number is going to be lower this year. All right, just to start with.
Sure.
Right. Next year CBS then kicks in full boat of 15, 16 games, whatever it is, and USC and UCLA are part of the mix. So that made the entire process easier because the negotiations went from what packages can we get for 14 schools to what packages now can we get from each one of you involving 16 that now include the Los Angeles market and the USC and UCLA brands. Right? That made it easier. Now you're trying to do something where you're trying to bring somebody in where you already have your contracts in place. See, that's a big difference here. We already have your contracts in place. And that's why you have the integration. Nebraska had to be integrated. It wasn't until the 7th year they were a full partner. Rutgers and Maryland wasn't until the 7th year they were a full share partner. Right? But USC and UCLA came in right away. They're full partners right out of the gate. I think Oregon and Washington probably felt like, hey, we should be full partners right away. Over here in the back, hey, no.
Yeah.
No. Au contraire, mon frere. Okay? I already negotiated a TV deal. Okay? I need to cover you some way. Right? I need to do that. And what we're offering you is more than what you're going to get.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? You're going to get more money from us as a partial share, and I don't know if it's half, 40%. I have no idea, right? But you're going to get more from that share than you would from the Apple deal, and you're going to get more from that share than you would have received from the Big 10, from the Big 12.
Big 12, yep.
Right. So, hey, you're going to be better off with whatever share we're talking about. Our key is, though, because my job is already to report to these 16 university presidents and chancellors. I didn't negotiate it. The previous regime negotiated a deal that has already laid out the numbers for the next 7 years. Right? Well, bringing these two in changed the numbers, and they changed the numbers down for everybody unless I find a revenue source that at minimum keeps it even, if not maybe gives you a little bit more. That's been his job, and to do it in a short period of time.
Especially,
yeah. Hey, rabbit, hat, pull.
Yeah.
Exactly. Keep pulling, keep going. It's like watching you play Powerball. You got 4 numbers. You did. He got 4 numbers.
I never thought I would be a bitter human being for winning $200, but you hit the first 4 numbers and then the next 2 don't hit.
Now, I'd like to point out that this guy, it's not the first time you've won at the lottery.
Not the first time I've won at the lottery. That's the most I've won, though.
So you've had 4 numbers. You ever have 3?
Yes.
You're unbelievable.
Yep, I've had 3. 3 and the 3 without the Powerball, or 2 and the Powerball, so 3 total.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now the 4 you didn't have the Powerball with.
No,
right?
Or that would have been $100,000 or $200,000, whatever it was.
So you wouldn't be sitting here right now?
That much money, yes. If I would have hit the 5 numbers without the Powerball, it would have been $1 million. Then we'll have to look at the taxes.
All right. So I was doing, I think it was football. And this is years ago, and I only did this one time, and nobody said anything to me about it. I was reading the Pennsylvania lottery. Usually it's Roger, Pennsylvania lottery.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm reading the lottery. So it may have been basketball.
Yeah.
Because I was reading it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't usually read it in football. Roger does. And I said, and the Pennsylvania lottery, the unofficial pension plan of Learfield Sports. I kept thinking, I'm going to get called about that one.
Never did.
I never did. Yeah.
The statutes would go over now. Can't do
it was years ago.
Well,
I think the statute of limitations is run out.
Not a chance.
Run out. Good. Now, from a competition point of view, Oregon and Washington will bring great competition to the table. Oregon has been under Dana Altman up and down in basketball. They've had some really good years, including a Final Four year. And he's a really good coach. Now, a lot of people were kind of on his case last year about the NIT, and it didn't go well enough. Okay. And Phil Knight's put a lot of money into their arena. I think it's named after his son, I think.
Yeah.
They put a lot of money into the football program at Autzen Stadium. It's not a big stadium.
No.
It's in the 40s, I think.
Yep.
But they put a lot of money into their facilities. And everybody, I've never been to Eugene, but everybody says it's a terrific, beautiful campus. And, almost had a game at Oregon when Penn State made the run to the NIT and won it in 2018. Marquette beat Oregon, and Penn State was playing the winner of that game. So Penn State was either going to play in Eugene with Peyton Pritchard, by the way, who's now with the Celtics, or play Marquette. Well, it turned out Marquette won, so Penn State went there, and then kind of the final score doesn't indicate how easy it was. Okay, there was a couple shots hit late that made it look closer than it was. I remember Dick Girardi saying in the pregame, Lamar Stevens will score 30 points against this group tonight. He scored 30. Yeah. And I've never been to Seattle. Everyone says the stadium right there by Puget Sound is just gorgeous. People pull up on their boats. That's where they park. And it's just a phenomenal place. Edmondson Pavilion, where they play, obviously. It's an older place. I think they've done renovation on it. The basketball program has been really not. It's even when they had Markel Fultz,
say when he had
they weren't
Fultz,
great.
yeah. I think you're back when they had Brandon Roy, same thing.
Right. So they've always been okay, middle of the pack to bottom of the pack. The football program's been good over the years.
Consistently, pretty good.
With Kalen DeBoer as the head coach, he brought in his guy from Indiana that he was with, Michael Penix. And Penix is right now considered to be one of those 10, 15 guys that you take a look at and say, could he win a Heisman Trophy? Yeah, maybe. It's one of those 10 or 15 guys you look at.
That's another example if he can stay on the field. Absolutely.
Right.
You hope. For his sake.
I want him to stay in the field.
Yeah, and for everything he's been through.
I want everybody to stay in the field.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, that's what they would bring.
Yeah.
And to the table if they were to come in. But this has been a day, I should say, 72 hours of wild pendulum swings. Mm-hmm. The issue with the Apple TV contract is that it gets them the same money they're getting now. All right? But they don't want the same money they're getting now.
No.
Right? Everybody else, is getting a little bit more. I mean, even the ACC, we can talk about the ACC, there's a gradual increase every year. It's just you fall behind further and further, even with the gradual increases. Which brings up Florida State and Clemson. I'm telling you right now, was it Bubba Cunningham? He's the athletic director at North Carolina. Basically told Florida State yesterday to shut up.
And he's right. And that's... they're not happy with the ACC. I get that. We know that by now. That point's been made. And the earlier point that you made, I think, is one of the most valid to why. Yes, they don't have that strong. They have a strong brand. They don't have that brand that's going to put it over the top.
No.
That's where you're not going to really move the needle much in the Big Ten. But the other part of it, they're not AAU. That's a huge part of it.
Right. And is it the be-all, end-all for university presidents? Right? I'm talking in the Big Ten. It's important.
Sure.
It's not unimportant. How about that? It's not unimportant. And the fact that Oregon and Washington, if they were go to 18, they're both AAU schools.
Yeah, I think it's important.
I mean, for example, if you're the SEC, why do you want Florida State? I've got Florida.
Yeah.
Okay. Why do I want Clemson? Now, is Clemson a better sports program than South Carolina?
Yeah.
Sure it is.
Yeah.
Right? But I do have South Carolina. So, again, the SEC is that they're the interesting ones in all this. Who stayed quiet through this entire process? Who has stayed quiet? They got Texas and Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. You have heard nothing since about expansion. Nothing. They have a nice deal that will pay them an average of about $70 million a year with ESPN starting next year. I want to get to the streaming part of it for a moment. Streaming is the future. It is not the present.
Yeah. And it's not, and it's the future. It is moving slower than I think that was anticipated. I don't think it's reached where it needs to be. Where even at where we're at right now, I'm not sure. I think they expected it to be a little higher.
Okay. Now I believe Netflix has made money.
Yes.
All right. Has Hulu?
They got to be getting close. They're paying a lot for live sports, though. Yeah. That's where I think that's where you're.
So Netflix has made money. Here's the issue. The issue is the people that are heavily involved in sports aren't making money.
No.
Right? So let's start with Peacock. Peacock is losing 9 figures. Not 7 figures, not 8 figures. They're losing 9 figures. Mm-hmm. And they have not closed the gap. Paramount Plus is losing, that's CBS, 9 figures.
Yeah, there's a reason.
And who's the biggest loser of all? I think Peacock might be the biggest loser, but in the running with them is Disney.
Close. Disney's getting there too. Yeah, sure.
Disney Plus is losing 9 figures, right? And that is, Disney makes money on the parks.
Of course.
Disney's movie thing is not going as well as people think. And by the way, when it comes to the parks, they closed Star Wars. Ooh, not good.
Yeah, it's true.
Does ESPN make some money? Yeah, ESPN makes some money.
Yeah.
No doubt. ESPN makes money. Right? But there's, when it comes to streaming, it's not the golden goose. Hey, let's go get that. Let's tap into it. Okay, I go back to Amazon. 12 million viewers is what they said they could get for Thursday Night Football. Okay, they're not talking 20, 25 million, 12, okay. All right. Well, they did really, really well, but they got 9.7. Right? For the National Football League.
Yeah. Right? With no alternative alongside of you either.
Right.
Yeah. On Saturdays, there's an alternative.
Right. That's
Sundays,
a good point.
There's an alternative.
Right.
There's not on Thursday nights.
Right. Exactly.
So that number is going to be higher because of that reason. And when people aren't going to, I'm not going to say you get it for free. You don't. You pay a lot of money for your TV, even when you don't have cable nowadays. But to me, when you have that alternative that is cheaper, especially this day and age, you're going with it. And you have that alternative right now on Saturdays and Sundays. You have those alternatives. Yeah. Okay, would I prefer to watch the Cowboys? Sure, but the Steelers are on too, and they're not costing me an arm and a leg. I'm going to watch the Steelers instead.
Yeah,
people have made that option because they have that option. They don't have that on Thursday nights, and the numbers is still not where you wanted it to be.
Right. Exactly.
So that, I think, sends a strong message.
And again, if they're not hitting their goal for the National Football League, right. Now I believe Amazon's numbers came out yesterday.
Yes,
and they went up.
They went up. Yeah.
Apple went down.
Yeah, and Apple had longer to work with it too. Apple, ESPN Plus, these places
I'm talking about their corporate.
Their
corporate numbers came out yesterday after Wall Street closed, and Apple declined. They're saying it's because they haven't put out the new iPhone yet. Okay, well, all right, that's fine. And Amazon closed higher. Their numbers were higher in the most recent quarter, or it may have been a yearly statement, a fiscal year statement, or quarterly statement, whatever. But the numbers came out yesterday, and Amazon went up slightly, and Apple went down. Disney also has a stock problem. Disney at one point was trading at about over 120 a share. Now they're at 80 a share. When you're losing 1/3 on your stock value, you have a big problem. So again, I keep going back to, where's the money coming from? If I have all these streaming outlets, because look, Netflix is not going to carry sports.
No, they don't have to.
No.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So they're not going to pay a sports rights fee, right? Everybody else in streaming, virtually everybody else in streaming, is losing not just a little bit of money,
quite a bit,
a lot of money. Well, how much do you keep investing in it to see if you can get it on track? And that's where, for example, and I go back to what Tony Petitti, finding a media partner. Well, a lot of people are tapped out because it's not just because they're tapped out at the moment.
Yeah.
They're tapped out because they've got 2 gigantic negotiations coming up that they need to have.
They need to have, sure.
They need to have the NBA, and they need to have
playoffs.
the college football playoff. And I'm talking about ESPN. Now, evidently, Fox is not going to bid for the NBA. I think they've indicated.
No, it's NBC. Yeah, NBC and ESPN.
NBC, right. I mean, those along with Turner.
And Turner, obviously. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Turner's going to get a chunk in some way. Yeah, I think the two.
Along with Turner.
Yep.
But that, to me, takes them, that's where their resources are going. And Fox wants to bid for the college football playoff, at least a part of it, and ESPN desperately wants to keep it.
Yep.
Well, if I'm trying to gear up for that, they call me about this. I'm like going, hey, I'm kind of trying to gear up for something else here.
Absolutely. And if you force, which is not going to happen, make that clear right now, not going to happen. You force any of these networks to go stream only on a major game, the viewer's going to say, blank you, get out of here. No, not doing it. And so that's the other part of it right now. You're not at that stage as a streaming service of anyone, out of anyone, to have the power to do that. Now, the NFL is going to put a playoff game on Peacock. It's not going to be the Steelers and the Patriots. It's not going to be the Eagles and Cowboys. It's not going to be the 49ers and insert other team here. It's going to be one of those lower tier wild card games.
Right.
You're not going to have a major game on the streaming. It's just not happening. You don't have the power right now to do that.
Right. And that'll be interesting to see what happens, because with that game, I'm going to be interested to see, because it's a playoff game. Mm-hmm. I can tell you right now, a part of it is I'm doing basketball at the time, too. So,
and that's going to be a Saturday playoff game at noon or 1 o'clock. Yeah, it's not going to be your...
For all I know, I've got a basketball game opposite it, or I've got a game that night or something, or on the road, whatever. Who knows? Yep. But even if I'm sitting at home, Jason, I'm not going to watch it.
No, because
it's not important enough to me.
It's not important enough, because, and the NFL is going to know that. They're smart enough to know, okay, I'm not taking my primetime slot on Saturday, or even the 4:05, 4:40 slot on Sunday, and putting it in streaming. Absolutely not. You're going to put probably a playoff. You may even do a playoff game back to back. You may put a playoff game on the network at 1 o'clock and then stream it at 1 o'clock. That's the possibility they can do it too, because the alternative, again, as we've said, for streaming is just not of interest for a lot of people right now. Your goal is to find that audience, to get them your way. You've got to do it slowly but surely.
Do I watch Thursday Night Football?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Sure, same here.
But, okay, so now let's get to, you're sitting there, and the lazy man's way of doing things, and it just becomes aggravating. If you're sitting there with a remote and going, okay, there's a couple games going on right now. ESPN, boom, okay. Let's see what's on Fox Sports 1, boom, all right?
Yeah.
Okay. But if I want to stream, all right, got to change the source.
Close it out. Yep.
Got to change the source. Okay,
can't multitask on the internet.
Boom, now you got to go, okay, let's go over to here, go over to here, go over to here. Then I got to get into here. Oh, yeah, that's my identification. Great, okay, now I'm finally in it.
Absolutely.
Okay, then I have to hit, okay, where's the program? There it is, right? Now.
Phone call pops up on it. Internet.
Right. Now, if I'm going to sit there and I'm going to watch or binge watch, for example, Jack Ryan.
Right.
Which I've done. Okay. Well, I'm locked into doing that. Right? Okay. I'm not even thinking about whatever. But if I'm sitting there and I'm watching, for example, the Colts and Broncos game last year, which was,
9-6 or whatever, or 6-3.
It took the NFL and it brought it down like 12 pegs just in 3 hours.
Yeah. Al Michaels wasn't shy in saying it either.
Well, I got to the third quarter. I'm like, oh, man, this is dreadful. So now, okay, I got to get back to, let's see what else is on. Got to get out of it. Got to go to this. Got to do that. Blah, 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 blah. Go through the process. You're like, and
you're not watching a game on your, if you have to watch a game on your phone, you're watching it, but you're a big-time game, you're not watching it on your phone.
So I got to do all that. Yeah. Then I decided, okay, well, let's see how it actually is going, 45 minutes later. So I went through the whole process and got back. And I'm thinking, what a pain in the neck this is.
Absolutely.
To do it. This is a pain in the neck. All right. And then I did tune in just in time for Michaels to say this game is so bad. It's people are, it's like watching a train wreck. You want to just keep watching it. And I said, you know what? I'm thinking to myself, I agree with that. Yeah. But I tuned out.
Yeah.
Went through the process of tuning out, and then went through the process of tuning back in, instead of sitting there on my cable going, okay, this game on Fox Sports 1's bad. Boom. Let's see what's going on ESPN 2. Bam. Okay. Seconds, within 3 seconds I have it. As opposed to, okay, where's the source button? Okay, boom. All right. I got to go Xfinity.
Go to the app. Go to this. Go to that. Sure.
Boom. Okay. Yep. That comes up. Are you Steve? Maybe.
That's true, though. It really is. Yeah, and that's you have to close out the app, go back into the app.
It's a pain in the neck.
It's
to do.
completely.
Yeah. And so, people, the one thing, and I've said this, I don't care whether it's about radio or when it comes to TV. When you're in media, one of the worst things you can make consumers do? Make them work for it. Yeah. Don't ever make them work for it. In other words, if you want to know how to find Penn State football, you should be able to know right away how you can find Penn State football.
Instead of having to go boom, boom, boom,
ever
boom.
make them work.
Absolutely.
Okay? Don't ever make them work. If you're a TV network, you don't want people working to find you. It's like, hey, look, it's time to relax. I want to enjoy myself. And can you make it as easy as possible for me? And as consumers, you deserve to have it made as easy as possible for you. So when it gets to the streaming thing, I'm like, I can't watch any more games this week like this. Well, enjoy Metallica.
All right.
Should because I've got to close out the show because you need to get rolling. You got to go to MetLife. It's going to take you about 4 hours to get there.
Should.
Yeah. Now, fortunately for you, it's a Friday at rush hour. No big deal. You should enjoy it. In suburban New York.
Long as I'm there by 6:30, 7 o'clock.
Let's close it out so you can get out of here. You'll need to. I mean, the first three hours, you'll sail along pretty well. It'll be the last hour.
Next hour will be 3.
Final hour. But again, take 46, cut down 17, take 3. Or you can take 46 right to 3. Either way, that's the best way to do it. Don't go the toll roads. He says to me, I got to check the turnpike. I said, for what?
Thankfully,
no, you don't take the turnpike to MetLife.
Thank goodness.
Don't do it. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Do the same.